Good morning. Today we will continue to the next three classes of mollusks, that is Polyplacophora, Cephalopoda as well as Gastropoda. We already mentioned about three classes, that is Aplacophora, Monoplacophora and class Bivalvia. Next three classes Polyplacophora as well as Gastropoda and class Cephalopoda. So first one is Polyplacophora, and this Polyplacophora includes primitive organism. You can see an organism in this image, that is chitin. It is a primitive sedentary organism. It is slow moving, slow as sluggish movement, and it inhabit the benthic, that means the bottom region of the intertidal shore, bottom region. Okay, bottom region inhabiting the intertidal zone of rocky shores. Okay, then usually they are herbivore. They graze on small algae and some planktons, etc. Then their body is untorted. In case of gastropoda, that is the next class. In gastropoda, there will be a process called torsion during their developmental process. That is the rotation of 180-degree rotation of their internal organs. But in case of this Polyplacophora, they are untorted. That means there will be no such rotation in this case. Then they are dorso-ventrally flattened as like our leaf. Then they are bilaterally symmetrical. You can see they are bilaterally symmetrical and they are flat. They have a flat structure. Then they have a mantle, and mantle is massive and cover the body dorsally and laterally. Okay, mantle is there and mantle cover the body dorsally and laterally. Okay, then next one is that this is one is mantle. Okay, mantle cover the body dorsally and laterally. Okay, then okay, next one is about their head structure. There will be no distinct head. Head is indistinct and lack of major sense organ. There will be no major sense organ will be present in chitin or in Polyplacophora. Then the large flat, the foot is large and flat glandular. Okay, then it is for creeping and attachment. Then they have radula. In mouth, a small radula is present. Small radula is present. It is for rasping, and they have a primitive nervous system. So about the Polyplacophora, Polyplacophora is primitive. They are slow moving. They are herbivore. They are untorted. Untorted means their internal organs are not rotate during their developmental process. They are flat. Then the mantle is massive and they cover laterally and dorsally. Then head is not indistinguishable. Then their radula is present. A small radula is present in the mouth buccal cavity. Then primitive nervous system is present in case of Polyplacophora. Next one, the example is chitin actually. The same things are applicable to the chitin. Okay, they have a thick and fleshy mantle which secrete the dorsal shell. Okay, you can see the dorsal shell here in this image, and it is secreted by the massive mantle. Okay, then this shell contain 8 plates are there. Okay, there are 8 plates are there. 8 plates are there. Okay, overlapping 8 plates are there, and the outer portion of the mantle that surround the partially overlap the shell is referred to as girdle. That means these are 8 shells are these are 8 shells and which partially overlap other valve. It is called a girdle. Okay, the outer portion of the mantle that surround and partially overlap the shells referred to as girdle. Then next one is about the foot. They have the head is indistinct without any sense organ, like we mentioned in Polyplacophora, in general features of Polyplacophora. Then they have a glandular flat foot. and it is for to attach and to creep around the substratum, and it also acts as a powerful sucker. Okay, then the digestive system is simple and start from mouth, and the anus is on the opposite side. This one is anus. Then the buccal cavity contain small radula, and it is a herbivore, so it have to graze on the algae. So radula help to graze the algae from the rock surface, and the nervous system is a primitive one. In case of this chiton, it is a the sex is separate, male and female is distinguishable. Okay, there will be no sexual hermaphroditism. The male and female is separate, and the gonad is single with the two gonodact. There will be two gonodact, and the gonad is single. Okay, this is gonad, single, and there will be two gonodact will be present. It is not in this image, and fertilization is external. Development involve a larva called trochophore larva. We already discussed about the trochophore larva in the previous chapter. So trochophore larva is the larval form of chiton, and this, so the development is indirect, that is the involvement of a larval form. That's about the Polyplacophora as well as the chiton. Next one is about Gastropoda. This is Gastropoda. Gastropoda is mostly aquatic. Some forms are terrestrial. Okay, you know about snails. Then majority are free living. Some are parasitic also. For example, endoconcha in holothurians. Holothurians means they are sea cucumber. Okay, and some parasitic form on sea cucumber. It is called endoconcha. Then unsegmented body they have. The pila, common example is pila, and they possess unsegmented body, and they exhibit torsion. Unlike the chiton, they show torsion. That is the 180-degree rotation of the internal organ. Hence, they are asymmetrical. Okay, in case of chiton, it is bilaterally symmetrical, but in case of pila or in case of Gastropoda, the organisms are asymmetrical. Then body is divisible into a head, muscular foot, as well as the visceral mass. Okay, then the shell is univalved and spirally coiled. You can see the shell here. The shell is spirally coiled. Okay, spirally coiled shell. Then univalve. That means there will be no chambers inside the shell. Okay, the shell is open. A single shell is present. That is univalvular. There will be no chambers inside the shell. That is about the shell. Then the head is distinct. Head region, that is distinct with the, this is one is head. Bear mouth, small tentacles. There are 4 tentacles are there. So mouth, tentacles, and eyes are there. Then the visceral mass, which will be, that is the group of visceral organs that is coiled into the shell. Then the ventral muscular foot usually bear a calcareous plate. The plate-like structure on the muscular foot is called operculum. Then the buccal cavity, it contains radula. Okay, radula. Then gut is U-shaped gut. Gut is U-shaped. Then they respire through gills. Some form, they can also, they are amphibian-like. That means they can live in both water and they can also have a terrestrial life. So they have lungs or pulmonary sac-like structure. Okay, example is pila. Then so they have gills. Some terrestrial form have lungs or integument or pulmonary sac, etc. Then cephalized nervous system with the distinct ganglia. We already discussed about the nervous system. There are pedal ganglia, visceral ganglia. That means the ganglia are small bulged structures, and these are some connectives or commissures are there. So in this case, the nervous system is a typical one. Like our previous, like we discussed in the introduction portion, then they sexually separate. Sometimes they show hermaphroditism, but actually the sex is separate. Then fertilization is internal, and the larval form is trochophore and veliger larvae. There are two larval forms, trochophore and veliger larvae. Common example is pila. In case of pila, it is also called apple snail. It's a freshwater snail. Then it is amphibious. That means they can live in water as well as in terrestrial condition. In the water, they respire through gill. In terrestrial condition, it will respire through the pulmonary sac. Then it is a herbivore, actually feed on small algae as well as small plants, aquatic plants. Then the shell is spirally coiled and univalvular, that we mentioned in Gastropoda general features. Then they undergo a period of dormancy during extreme environmental condition, and this dormancy period, during that time their life processing, all the life process is dormant. That time period is called estivation or summer sleep. It is during extreme environmental conditions, and the central axis of the shell, okay, there will be a central axis internally. It is called, this is a central axis, okay, a central axis, and this is called columella. And the opening of the axis, there will be a small opening here, and this opening is called umbilicus. Okay, so there will be a primary central axis. It is hollow, and this axis is called columella, and the opening of such axis is called umbilicus. Okay, then the shell with such a opening called perforated shell. And you can see there are so many coiling in the shell. Okay, and this coiling is called whorls. Okay, body whorls. Each coiling is called body whorls. The smallest whorl is present in the apex, in the top portion of the pila. It is called apex. And it is developed from proton of the larval form. Actually, apex is the smallest whorl. Then largest one. Second one is more larger than the apex whorl. Then next one is about the shell is unilocular. There will be no septum or no separate chamber inside the shell. Then externally the whorl is demarcated by boundary line. You can see some boundary line between the whorl. That is called sutures. Okay, that is about the sutures. Then there are so many lines of growth. These lines of growth is called varix. Okay, varix, and we can calculate the age using the varix. Then next is about the mouth. Okay, the shell open out by a wide ventral aperture called mouth, and the boundary of the mouth, this is mouth, and boundary of mouth is called operculum. The boundary of the mouth is called operculum with the outer lip and inner lip. Okay, operculum contain an outer lip as well as the inner lip, and the operculum contain small nucleases. Okay, operculum carries many lines of growth around the small nucleus. Then on the inner surface, this is the inner surface of the operculum, there will be an elliptical area. This is the elliptical area. It is called boss. This one, inner elliptical area is called boss, and this elliptical area is surrounded by the groove. Okay. The opercular muscle, there are so many muscles attached to the present in the operculum. It is attached to the boss, that is the inner elliptical area. Then pila have a soft body. Their body is divisible into head, foot, visceral mass. Then actually the head and foot are bilaterally symmetrical. The visceral mass is asymmetrical. Pila is asymmetrical, but their head, foot, these are bilaterally symmetrical, but the visceral organ is asymmetrical. Next one is about the head region. You can see small head here, and the head is an anterior fleshy part. It bear two pair of tentacles, large and small tentacles, a pair of eyes, mouth, etc. Tentacles, eyes and mouth. The anterior pair of the tentacle, you can see two pair of tentacle, and anterior pair of tentacle are shorter in size, and the anterior one is shorter. This one is anterior tentacle. It is shorter when compared to the posterior one. It is called the cephalic tentacle, and the posterior tentacle is called, this one is posterior tentacle. It is called true tentacles. Then eyes are short, stumpy, and the eyes are contractile also. These are eyes, small eyes, contractile eye. It is present on a stalk called omatophore. Okay, eyes are present here on a stalk, and this stalk is called omatophore. Then next one is about foot. Foot consists of two regions, a propodium, anterior region, and a posterior metapodium. Foot consists of two regions, propodium and a posterior region called metapodium. The operculum, you know, operculum is the boundary of mouth. It is attached to the foot, especially towards the metapodium. Okay. And the flat surface, this is the flat surface of foot, it is called sole of the foot. Flat surface of the foot is called sole of the foot. This is the sole region. Then visceral mass in the form of hump and contain the major visceral organs of the body. This is coiled inside the shell. That's about the pila. Then mantle. In mantle region, the mantle produce two fleshy flaps, okay, called pseudoepipodia, and the left pseudoepipodia is more developed when compared to the right one, and it form a siphon. It's help in the respiratory process. This is all about pila. Pila is common example for gastropoda. The important features are they are aquatic, they have unsegmented soft body, asymmetrical. In case of pila, the head and foot is symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical, but other region, that is visceral mass, is asymmetrical. And the body is divisible into three regions, that is head, visceral mass and foot. Then shell is univalvular, spirally coiled shell. Head is distinct with the mouth, tentacles. About tentacles, there are two pair of tentacles. The anterior pair and posterior. Anterior pair is called cephalic tentacle or labial palps, and the posterior is called true tentacles. Then they have operculum. Operculum is the boundary of mouth. Then the buccal cavity contain radula. Radula is a grasping organ. The gut is U-shaped, as well as they have open circulatory system, well-developed nervous system. The sex is separate. Fertilization is internal with trochophore and villiger larvae. Then foot contain two regions, propodium and metapodium. Then the flat surface of the foot is called sole. Then that's about the pila. Next one is cephalopoda. Cephalopoda, the common example is sepia. Okay, cephalopoda. Cephalopoda are exclusively marine. other examples are cuttlefish, sepia is cuttlefish, squid, octopus, etc. Okay, cephalopoda, they're exclusively marine. They are fast moving. In case of squid or octopus, these are, their eyes are more developed. Their brain is also more developed, even more developed than ours. Okay, then they're exclusively marine. They're fast moving. They leading a pelagic predatory life. They are predator. Okay, in case of pila, or in case of gastropoda, they or in case of chitin also, they show a herbivore. They are herbivore. But in case of cephalopoda, it will show a predatory life. Then body is bilaterally symmetrical, contain head, foot and visceral mass. Head and foot are at one end of elongated body. Okay, this is head. So one end of body possesses head and foot. Then about head is distinct with eyes, mouth and tentacles. Then foot is transformed into a siphon. And a sucker. Okay, siphon as well as sucker is present. Then there are so many tentacles. Actually, I think 10 tentacles are there. Then the mantle form a thick muscular and protective envelope around the body, like the previous one. Then the shell may be present or absent. In some cases, especially in case of sepia, shell is present inside. Calcareous shell is present inside the body. So shell may be present or absent. When present, it is external or internal. Two cases are there: external shell and internal shell. Okay. Then jaws and radula present. Jaws are present and radula is also present because it is a predatory form. Then an ink sac may be present. During danger or for defense purpose, it will have a ink sac or ink stored in the ink sac. It will release that ink during any danger or during the predation. Then they have tenidia or lungs as well as kidneys. Tenidia for respiration and kidneys for excretion. Then the nervous system is developed like the previous one. Then the sense organs are well developed because they have well developed nervous system with the brain. And the brain as well as about their sense organ, their eyes are even more complex than ours. Then the sex is separate and development is direct. There will be no larval form present in case of cephalopoda. In case of, so first example is sepia. Sepia is commonly called cuttlefish. This is sepia. Their body is short, broad and they are bilaterally symmetrical. Bilaterally symmetrical. They are dorso-ventrally flattened body. That means leaf-like. Then their body is divisible into head, a trunk region and neck region and trunk region. Their body is divisible into head, neck region and a trunk region. Then the head bear tentacles, eyes and terminal mouth. The head contain 10 arms contain with sucker. Out of the 8 arms, out of the 10, 8 arms are short and stout with suckers in inner side of the tentacles. Then the remaining 2 arms are called tentacles. So there are 10 arms are present. Out of 10, 8 are with the suckers and remaining 2, these are tentacles. Then about in male cuttlefish, the 4th arm is form a special structure called hectocotylus. Hectocotylus. It acts as a intromittent organ. That means to transfer sperm from their body to female body. Then a large funnel shaped siphon lies below the head. It is not clear. It is in this image. It is inside their body. So it is not clear in this image. Then the trunk is broad. This is trunk region. It is broad, flat, as well as it is like a shield, and it is bordered by a lateral flap. This is the lateral flap. It is help in the swimming. Then it is called a lateral fin. Then the mantle is thick and muscular and cover the trunk. Shell is internal. Sepia possess shell, but the shell is internal. In case of cephalopod, shell may be present or absent. It is external or internal. Sepia is a good example for internal shell. Then it have some buoyancy mechanism. Okay, the gas chambers are there in the rigid shell. So this help in the buoyancy, as well as some other mechanism is there. Buoyancy can be increased by filling chambers with the fluid. So buoyancy can be decreased by removing the fluid from the chamber. Okay, and they show bright color patterns, as well as they can exhibit camouflage, that changing the color pattern of the body, and they can move fastly. They are predator, so they have some adaptation, especially regarding with their sense organs, about their locomotion, etc. And this fast moving is help in defense mechanism, as well as to capture prey, and also it help in courtship. They are bioluminescent. That means they can shed light. They have a pair of gills and nephridia in the mantle cavity. Mantle cavity with a pair of gills and nephridia. Gills is for respiration and nephridia is for the excretion. Then I told you there will be an ink sac complex to store ink. During the danger, they will release that ink to the prey, or during predation it will release the ink into the prey, or during any danger it will release the ink to confuse the predator or the attacking organism. Then it is formed from the diverticulum of rectum, a separate chamber from the rectum. It acts as a ink sac, and the ink contain melanin granules. It is blue or black in color. Melanin granules, it is produced by a gland, ink gland, inside the ink sac. And nervous system is well developed. Sex is separate, and the male can transfer their sperm using a hectocotylus. It's a special structure for transferring sperm. It acts as an intromittent organ. That means to transfer the sperm from their body, from the gonads into the sac, from their body to female's body. That is called hectocotylus. It's a development of, it's a modified form of fourth arm in case of male cuttlefish. And so the fertilization occurs inside the body of female. Then that's about the sepia. So these are the three classes. Important points in cephalopoda is that, or sepia, is that they are marine form, bilaterally symmetrical. They have a flat body surface. Their body is divisible into head, foot, head, trunk, as well as neck region. Then head is distinct with well developed sense organs, tentacles, eyes and mouth. Then foot is transformed into a siphon. Mantle is thick, muscular, and form a protective envelope. Shell may be present or absent. In case of sepia, the shell is internal. Sometimes external shell is also present. Jaws and radula is present. Radula is present in buccal cavity, and ink sac will be present in case of sepia, cuttlefish, etc. Then respiration is through lung, and kidney is present for excretion, and the nervous system is well developed. with ganglia, commissures, connectives, etc. And the sex is separate, development is direct. There will be no larval form. Good examples are sepia, loligo. Sepia is cuttlefish, loligo squid, then octopus, nautilus, etc. Okay. That's about the remaining three classes: cephalopoda, gastropoda, and polyplacophora. Okay, thank you.